welcome to our roundtable today, and thank you so much for joining us. Today we have three experts in the room. We have Oliver Mr. Playfair from Printfab, we have Phil McMullin from Epson, and we have Guy Alroy from Early.Vision. And our conversation today is going to explore the paradigm shift of fashion to personalised fashion and the challenges, solutions and benefits for the manufacturing community. All three of our guests have a deep, deep knowledge of all of this sector, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Just before we make our start, Oliver, could you introduce yourself, please, and your company?
Hi, yeah, I'm Oliver Mustoe Playfair, and I run a company called Printfab with my brother Harry. We're a textile print-on-demand company.
Okay, that's great. Guy, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Guy Alroy. I'm from Early.Vision. We are a software company that does workflow solutions for print on demand, micro factories, focusing mainly on all over print cut and sew scenarios, but also DTG and printing fabric by meter. Very much focused on the textile industry. We've been in business, or we established in 2020.
Okay. And your technology powers a number of factories all over the world, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Making life simple for people. We'll dive into that shortly. Phil, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hello everybody. Phil McMullin. I'm the head of sales for Epson UK and Ireland in the commercial and industrial division, which essentially covers the print for pay market in textile, signage, labels, photo and proof, etc., etc. So yeah, that's my remit. I've been with Epson for about 11 years now, so plenty of experience in the commercial print environment.
That's great. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, let's dive straight in. Let's dive in with our first question. The evolution of fashion. Why is the apparel industry shifting from fast fashion to a more personalised approach? Phil, you've got boots on the ground literally here. Perhaps you could share some of your thoughts.
Yeah, the textile industry in general is changing every day, and fast fashion has more of the challenges than perhaps any other part of the textile industry. We're looking at figures somewhere in the region of 30% of clothes that are manufactured each year don't get sold, and they either end up in landfill, or they get burnt, or they get shipped around the world, all of which is contributing to huge global warming in this, or rather carbon contribution to global warming, global emissions. Estimates vary, but in 2020 it was around about 4% of global emissions attributable to the fast fashion industry. So that clearly can't continue. Both, whether you think global warming actually exists or not, we've got to do something to clean that up, to change that, and look at more environmentally friendly, but also more economic ways. I think that's really what it comes down to, doesn't it? Is more economic ways to produce garments, to produce textiles of all types, and produce what is actually needed rather than what people think they are going to need or are going to sell. So switching the model on its head from produce 10,000 garments, let's say, in China, ship them to Europe, sell only 2,000 garments, and then have to decide what you do with the 8,000 that are left over. Then the new model, the new paradigm, is to using digital technologies to take an order for 2,000 garments, produce those 2,000 garments, and then if you get really good sales on those 2,000, and you think you can sell another 200, you produce another 200, and then if you get another 10, you produce another 10. So that's really where we believe the market needs to go, the industry needs to go, and it's because of the issues that the global economy, the global textile market has been suffering for many years.
Most definitely. Oliver, you saw a business opportunity with Printfab a number of years ago based on those principles, didn't you?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Could you tell me how perhaps, your business, which is print by the meter, has evolved along with this trend?
Yeah, so I guess Printfab from the outset was enabled by print technology in the first place, i.e. before digital textile printers were a thing, this business just wouldn't exist. So I think that sort of digital print technology has been an enabler of helping people to move away from the sort of mass-produced to very short runs. But I'm not sure if the sort of there is a massive shift away from fast fashion at the moment. So we see it with our customers. And the likes of sort of Shein, where I polled everyone in the company and said, who's actually bought something from Shein? Everyone, bar one person, had bought something from Shein. And I know my 11-year-old daughter has bought stuff from Shein. So it's difficult to see actually if there's any kind of change there. If anything, it seems to be getting worse. But from our customer point of view, we see a lot of customers ask for organic and recycled fabrics, but actually they don't buy those fabrics. They tend to buy the cheaper fabrics or the better value fabrics, which is a challenge for us to try and change. One of the big issues is the price of the fabrics is far greater than the non-organic fabrics. So
yeah, it's a dichotomy, that, isn't it, though? Because until we get large volumes available of sustainable materials, the price won't. You have to have the volume in order to reduce the price.
And we have to kind of look at the data as well, because we get a lot of customers asking us for the organic and recycled fabrics. We have to look to see what actually people are buying, because it's easy to get swayed by the not the vocal minority, but the people that speak the loudest. Whereas actually, as a business owner, you have to look at what people actually want and try and fit it around there, whilst sort of trying to get your own agenda there. But yeah,
it's interesting, isn't it? Because perhaps, Guy, you can join us for this one. Is that from the front line, as Oliver says, sometimes it looks like nothing has changed, and yet in the background, where that fabric then goes on to be a sewn piece of manufacture, the fashion industry are ordering shorter and shorter volumes of materials, and therefore the blocks that used to run for thousands and thousands of meters and then run through the factories as well for thousands and thousands of SKUs of sewn made up products, that doesn't happen anymore. It does happen, but the SKUs are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I wonder your view as well, how you feel from your perspective, Guy, about how companies are standing out by personalizing those items, making each of those SKUs unique, which is a huge trend, which I'm sure Phil will concur with as well, really.
Yeah, I think that at the end, the demand for personalization comes from the market, right? So I differentiate between personalization and on demand. If you do personalization, you must work on demand, but not necessarily vice versa. And you see that companies that started the whole notion of fast fashion realized very quickly that the methodologies that this industry adopted over the past 20 years don't fit the fast fashion. You are not built to respond to market trends in a reasonable time. Then you get stuck with excess inventory, and you are not built for short runs. So this is what the digital technology and the automation can bring us. This is what all of our customers are doing, either in the fashion or the sportswear industry. So this is what they are trying to do, from handling very short runs of a sports team of 10 kids that want their own uniform, up to a single item that somebody customized online. And the idea there is the attachment to the garment. I want to be unique. I want to be the only one who is wearing this garment, and it's something that I created. We see some of the printed units as part of our QA processes are amazing things, from kids to adults to autistic kids that do amazing stuff that I can see the attachment to such an item.
Oliver, from your side of things, would you agree then that your service is powering this creative economy as well? It's powering those people who may only want to order 2 or 3 meters, but as their orders grow, they'll be ordering 300, 400, 500, 1,000 meters a week from you. And that personalization, as Guy has said, can be a personalization of one product, or the personalization by a designer creating one design for a certain limited edition, which in itself becomes personalized and customized. Again, it has that unique sales value.
Yeah, very much so. I think probably at the very micro end of the market. So the service like Printfab will you can order a meter or a handful of meters to make a garment, for example. But it's a very very tiny part of the market. I would have thought. So yes, that does enable that to happen. Whether it has an impact or a material impact on the sort of wider industry, I'm not sure. Perhaps it's helped some of the bigger brands to look more at that now that technology is possible.
Yeah. Well, they reduce their risk, don't they, because they're not committing to stock.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, is it Selfridges in the big department store in London, and they had a direct-to-garment printer in the store, which I thought was interesting. So that technology is now at a point where it's so cheap and portable, anyone can do it, type of thing.
That's right.
Which is interesting. I think that's really enabled, especially the DTG market. That's really seems to have sort of exploded over the last few years. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Phil, would you like to add something to that? How technology from the print side of things is really powering personalization as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We saw it really taking off during COVID. I mean, the trend was already there, but COVID really lit a fire underneath it. People were stuck at home. They were perhaps getting furlough money. They still had birthdays, anniversaries, and events they wanted to celebrate, and they had money to spend to do that. And the access the internet gave everybody, you couldn't go out into the high street, obviously, during COVID. So it was all done via the web. And we saw an explosion of demands for our DTG technology. This is really before direct to film started to impact. So it was direct to garment, cotton products, and then dye sublimation at the same time. Also, demand went through the roof for man-made polyester type fabrics and printing onto key rings and mouse mats and 3D objects, water bottles, etc. So the strategy we've taken at Epson is to try and make that as scalable as possible. Oliver's alluded to the fact that a lot of the print technology is quite small now, it's quite mobile. You can move it around from place to place, particularly with the latest generation of products that we've just launched, from a small desktop A4 device all the way up to industrial products that Oliver is running. So it is almost like the opening up of that market to enable personalization by pretty much anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Guy, from your perspective then, it takes a lot of organization, doesn't it, to take I always say there's as much work in one SKU as there is in pressing that button and 10,000 rolling when you're using digital technologies. You must have seen a lot of changes and a lot of take up then over the last few years, with regard to whether it's a personalized order or a small SKU that is a large volume.
Yeah, I think that at the end, just a quick anecdote. I mean, prior to 2015, when I started to work with the fashion industry in terms of 3D, I used to work with the traditional manufacturing, heavy machinery market, still in the 3D space. But you would go into a shop floor and you will see, the machines are working all the time. And if a machine is not working, something is wrong. Either the technician is about to come or is already on the machine. When I started to work with microfactories, the thing that shocked me at first was that you go to the shop floor and the printer is not printing, and I'm intuitively I think that something is wrong, and I'm asking what is going on, and he says, "Oh, it's waiting for the designer, it's waiting for the rip, it's waiting, and you invest tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in technology that is waiting for people. And that's a scale problem if you want to work on demand. And part of what we see with customers, and it's repetitively, is that first of all we solve the problem of feeding the monster, right? We try to get to leverage the capacity that the printer can handle. And the key here is, of course, to connect the e-commerce to the back office, acquiring the design very efficiently from different sources, from your website, from B2B engagements with sports team, with Soho designers, and so on. And this has a huge impact. And then automating the preparation to a level that there is a no touch from the source, the website, the e-commerce, the designer, all the way to the sewing. So nobody is dealing with a single garment until, unfortunately now, unless it's pillows and straight products, it is the first time that you deal with a bundle with a unique SKU are the sewing stations. And this is what we run into very often. First of all, solving the flow, then usually looking at generating the demand. So for example, after a few months, the customer says, okay, we got it figured out. Now we need to generate more demand. And in the more demand, you see that they are trying to engage with customers that they wouldn't engage with before. For example, influencers and very small Soho brands that basically don't buy or don't commit to anything but kind of a subscription model, and everything is on demand. So it used to be that such Soho brands need to purchase 50, 100 meters before they can even speak with the manufacturer. And now everything is virtual. They build the collection online. They publish it through their channels, but except from samples, they didn't have to commit on anything. And this is a model that our customers are utilizing very often.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because Oliver, you and I used to be a manufacturer. We know that kind of sometimes it's not as simple as it sounds, isn't it? Is it? And it's interesting that what Guy said early on about watching machinery stood still is money, isn't it? It's all time and it's all money. And I know that you invested quite early on, didn't you, in workflow solution? You actually brought an external party in, didn't you, to look at the layout of your factory and take that first step to make it more efficient.
Yeah, so right from that, so Harry and I are both software engineers by trade, so we have always sort of approached this business from that perspective, and we quickly realised that there were lots of companies operating in this space that were very, very inefficient. They had loads of staff doing things that could very, very easily be automated with software or process. So we approached that right from the outset. We did have a guy that came in that did some sort of working time motion studies and lean manufacturing or something like that, try and get some of the efficiencies even faster. So we have the ability, for example, the machine can constantly be running, even when it runs out of fabric. There's someone there waiting to tag it onto the roll, and off it goes, and it can keep going. But to be honest, the machines aren't being used 100% of the time, so we don't need to be that efficient yet. So there is a bit of built-in redundancy there. But yeah, from the outset, we've approached this to be as efficient as possible and looked at every single process with a microscope. Much to the frustration of the team sometimes, but it makes a real difference because we're very, very lean. We've only got, I think, 8 staff, yet we're producing as much as people that I've seen with 40 or 50. So it's all about efficiency, I think. Yeah.
So if you had to describe, the next question was from design to production, really, what does a modern on-demand production facility look like? Oliver, how would you describe your factory?
This corner of the factory there's not much here, but it's very, very clean. So there's a lot of focus on the working environment, so heating, cooling, ventilation, Everything is spotlessly clean, apart from that side of the office. But yeah, it's almost like a lab, and we keep it that way because it stops things from getting into the production line. It's not like a factory. It's more like a lab, I'd say, than with some big machines and very big pipes. Yeah.
It is, but it's primed for efficiency and agility, isn't it? That was your raison d'etre right from the very beginning. That's what you were going to build, and you have successfully done that.
Yeah, but it's built from so the building from the front to the back is built to take fabric in at the front, process it, and then go out the back. So it's that there's no time spent wandering around and trying to hunt for things. We even have a sort of shadow labels where everything goes. So on the top of a printer there'll be a shadow label, and you'll see where the scissors, where the knife, where the masking tape goes. So you don't even have to think about that. It's everything is built to be as efficient as possible in that workflow in mind.
Yeah, definitely. It's impressive as well. I have visited. Phil, could you talk to us about streamlining that workflow, perhaps from a colour perspective as well? Because, you know, it's very much about the machinery and the technology, isn't it? Speaking one language in order to automate all of it. And we'll move on in a minute to talk to Guy about how his software helps with all of that. From an Epson perspective, that's been a primary part of the development over the last, the whole time actually, but it's really coming to the fore now, isn't it?
Yes, it is, Debbie. We would not be considered a software house. You know, we're a manufacturing company that specializes in print heads in particular. We'd like to think the best print heads pound for pound globally, but we're also ink chemists as well. And we do have some very clever software people who are writing programs to squeeze the best possible performance out of that combination of Epson printhead and Epson ink chemistry. So the idea from our point of view is to make the equipment as self-serving as possible and minimizing operator intervention. That's really the goal of our R&D team who work out of Japan, is to say, you know, what can we do in terms of clever software and firmware to minimize an operator involvement. So we get the equipment to maintain itself, keep itself in tip-top shape, make sure the nozzles and the print heads are all working perfectly, and then have its own plan to recover those if necessary, without even having to inform the operator that it's going on, something called nozzle verification technology. So all of this then hopefully makes it very simple for Guy's company to come in and offer the big picture automation, and knowing that when you plug a piece of Epson print equipment into it, that you can just almost forget about it and just let it run, let it do its own thing without that compromising the whole process. Because if you're automating the front end and you've got a really slick setup like Oliver clearly has, the last thing you want is the equipment to be a spanner in the works and cause problems. So that's definitely our aim. And you know, the recent acquisition of Fiery clearly goes to that focus as well in the future, to make our systems even more clever in terms of the way they operate themselves. And color, as you mentioned, is a key part of that. So that's really where the Epson ecosystem that exists within the bigger picture is looking constantly at color, maintaining the best possible image quality, but making that repeatable, so that if Oliver's producing some work for a customer today and that customer comes back again in a couple of months or 6 months time, the output that Oliver's able to produce on his Epson Mona Lisa looks identical, and the customer's again very, very happy. So big focus on that. And we've got a great deal of heritage in that direction, coming from the photography market 25-30 years ago, where demand for accuracy of reproduction was you couldn't get into the game if you weren't able to deliver that. So we've taken that knowledge, we've combined that with the specialist knowledge that we acquired from Robustelli and Vortex when that acquisition happened in 2016, 2017. And we're trying to make the sum of the whole more than the sum of the parts, combining all that together to give you what we hope is the perfect print solution.
Okay. Guy, I'm gonna pass this question to you, but just before I do, I want to explain. I think if you were to look at the industry as a whole, in the way that Oliver has organically grown through different sets of machinery as they become available, Guy, you have the task of plugging together all of those different devices in different scales of factories, don't you? How does print technology and software then streamline that customization workflow, and what challenges do you have within that?
So I think that we are a bit agnostic to the device. At the end of the day, we need to prepare the right files for the printer, the cutter, depending what the technology is and how it works, especially when you are speaking on automated cutting. The key in my eyes for streamlining the workflow is from the phase of acquiring the design all the way to being able to handle multiple orders coming from different sources in an automated manner. Again, until the point that you hand over a bag or whatever it is to the sewing station to be sewn. So the notion here, and we see customers that have multiple technologies, right? It's very common that our customer will have a direct to a fabric printer, a sublimation printer, a DTG somewhere in the factory. So it's not a unique situation. And part of the workflow, if we start from the acquisition of the design, is the ability to expand to more channels from which you can generate demand. So if at the past, some of our customers only worked B2B and did very little personalization, they move into a model that on their e-commerce site, I can order, let's say, a hoodie with personalized print, just one unit. Or I can work with professional designers from a Soho brand that send to me a few items a week, right? So having the ability to acquire the design is the first step of the workflow. Then the ability to connect to all these sources and generate a print run, whether it's a daily print run, whether it's an hourly, it depends on the scale, a print run that is organized in an efficient way. Of course, it is simpler when you have only 5 garments. Each garment is made from one fabric. It's a simpler scenario than a situation that you are doing. We have a customer doing cycling where the single suit can be 5 different or 6 different materials. This makes it more complicated, but all of that process has to be optimized in a way, like Oliver mentioned, that the operator on the machine is taking the right fabric and printing as much meters as he can in a single run, rather than being busy all the time switching materials or printing one material, but the other pieces are missing and the sewing station are standing still waiting for the ribs of the hoodie. So this process at the end of the day starts from acquiring the design, acquiring the orders, organizing them well for production, and controlling, of course, the shop floor.
At speed, on demand.
At speed. And, as part of that, we do the nesting and we save material along the way. But the idea is to take a single order with one unit and make it a bulk production process.
Yeah. And I guess, I'd like to just jump back a question actually to e-commerce integrations as well, because I know, Oliver, you're a completely e-com store, aren't you? B2B, B2C?
Depends who you ask, really.
Exactly,
B2C and B2B. We used to ask our customers, a lot of them would say they're businesses. In the wider context, they could be regarded as consumer, but we do both. Mainly B2C, I'd say, but B2B as well, yeah. Yeah, but we're 100% e-commerce. And so we have an e-commerce platform and we have print production stuff over here. and we built some software that goes in between, which has been a real, I say we actually, Harry has probably built most
You
of
need
it.
to give credit to Harry.
Yeah, he's done an incredible job, but there are just so many challenges in getting the image that needs to be printed to the production line. In terms of consistency, we don't know what type of files we're going to get half the time. All the sort of inconsistencies and managing to
JPEGs, PDFs, TIFFs at various resolutions.
all sorts.
DPI, 300 DPI, all sorts of stuff coming through.
And it all has to be processed consistently, so that if someone places an order for, say, ABC JPEG, it's going to be the same 4 years ago as it is today. So, sort of maintaining a sort of log of how things have been done in the past as well has been a challenge, and making sure it's interoperable as well. So, whether we're running Epson machinery or Mackie machinery or Reggiani machinery, that bit in the middle, because it's so expensive to develop. Has to be sort of interoperable.
Well, you need that stability, don't you, and that continuity as well. Especially just jumping back to the question with Phil on colour, because you've got clients who establish a product out in the marketplace, and they want to top it up and reorder as and when on very, very short timescales. Your business can't be sampling. You have to just press the button and reprint that meterage, don't you? So it kind of comes back to Guy and yourself in many ways, in that you have to embed and carry that all of that data now has to carry and move with the order, doesn't it? Regardless of how it enters the system.
I think in the first thing, you have to sort of abstract the whole process. So yes, we're printing on fabric, but there are probably, I don't know, say 20 variables that can affect how that fabric will print, from the file to the temperature, to the humidity, to the equipment that's being used, and so on. So firstly, identifying those things, and then managing those sort of attributes, I guess. There are just so many, and that's been perhaps the biggest realization for Harry and myself, in that it's not as simple as just pressing a print button or something like that. There are so many things that can change a print, which we have to address every day. So, yeah.
But you've done that the right way. You've done it through standardizing all of your operations, haven't you?
As much as possible, yeah. There are a few weak links which we're working on, but yeah, it's finding solutions to those what are quite big challenges. And we're a relatively small company. Well, we are a small company, so we don't necessarily have the resource to be able to solve all of those challenges. So we have to work around them sometimes.
Yeah. Guy, you work with companies large and small, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah. When do people generally shout? When do people generally go, "Oh, I need some help. I need to improve my system"?
I think that it's the type of customers that engage with us are either those that start very small, buying just one Epson printer, Mimaki printer for sublimation to do some sportswear, but they want to work in an efficient manner. And our solution takes them from acquiring personalization on their website all the way to automating the print. Or those that have worked unit by unit, right? And then they realize that they cannot scale. That all the time the system is in a continuous hiccup. It's waiting for this, it's waiting for that. The machine is waiting, the cutter is waiting. So these are the type of engagements that we see either very early in the beginning or after working unit by unit and trying usually to solve the problem of the scale. Along the way they realize that they save a lot of fabric, so this is also promoting the investment in this technology. But usually they don't come to us to solve the problem of the fabric, although it's meaningful. The company I mentioned earlier with the cycling wear, I was amazed that the guy wrote me 6 months after the implementation, I saved 35,000 euros in this 6 months. I said, okay, I didn't price my system accordingly, but yeah, this is his reason for taking that for implementing the system was mainly to be able to serve more clubs, to scale.
Yeah. to be able to put the accelerator on demand, literally. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So we noticed that. Oh, sorry. I was going to say we noticed.
Carry on.
Yeah, we noticed that very early on in the business when we sort of first started. So when we first started printing fabrics, we used to have a little thumbnail of every print that we'd print, and we'd use that to match up to the actual piece of fabric that was done. But we realised that just didn't work because you only have to have a couple of hundred orders, and then how do you know that picture of let's say a dog is that person's dog when you're only looking at a thumbnail? So we very quickly had to abstract that, and we started using QR codes. But the importance of investing in that automation and that software to be able to do that at scale is critical. I don't know how a company could possibly operate without having that sort of automation in place. It would just be chaos. Yeah.
Phil, would you agree that the success of a company depends on the partners that it brings on board as well? Choosing with the right partners with the right technology.
Yeah, absolutely. Ultimately, it's your profit pump that you're talking about. It's the generation of saleable output in a timely fashion, consistently, and meeting the expectations of your customers today, tomorrow, and next week. And again, being in a connected world, if you offer a great service, the news gets around. But if you offer poor service, the news gets around probably 10 times as quickly. So choosing the right partner that is going to listen to what you need and be flexible, but offer consistency in what they produce is in our view is critical. And that's what we try and be at Epson is completely consistent, delivering to expectation, and allowing customers hopefully to grow with us. We talked about scalability and starting small. Guy was talking about his customers starting small and then just growing and adding additional devices, and that's really what we're trying to do at Epson now on the in the commercial print environment, print for pay environment, is offer the small scale solutions with the ecosystem that feeds them, and then allowing customers to grow with us and add bigger devices, different applications, different ink technologies. And you're absolutely, Oliver's hit the nail on the head. You absolutely got to automate that to keep control. Otherwise, that will spiral out of control very quickly and impact on your productivity and your service delivery.
Yeah, absolutely. Guy, the future of the apparel industry. So you're very much on the front line there as well, powering sort of secretly and silently all of these factories all over the place. So they're like the secret warrior. What do you see? How do you see your software? How do you think you see things changing for the future? How do you think, AI, etc., and all of that seamless, intelligent workflow?
Well, I think that there is an immediate impact in terms of the acquisition of design, so democratizing the design itself. If you see some of the users, we did some studies with end users looking how they customize their garment. And some people are very happy with just putting, a slogan or an image, and it makes them happy and they make an order, right? Others are looking for something more fashionable, but they are not professional enough to generate those. So generative AI here can play a major role in providing design options for the end user to generate amazing things. And we've done some work with customers around that part, both in understanding trends of what is in the market from professional brands, as well as allowing the user to generate something on his own. So that's one part of acquiring the design. Then there are additional aspects of the workflow on how do I serve a print, cut, and sew scenario, where usually I will focus on my own collection of garments, because I need to print, cut, and sew them, and I cannot, sew just any pattern that is brought to me because I need to learn the structure. And also supporting scenarios where I print to a brand, I cut, but I don't sew. So they are responsible for sewing and enabling the workflow here to automate the process for small brands, being able to work in multiple colorways in one print run, small quantities for each. But me as an owner of a micro factory, I don't need to sew for them because I cannot commit on that for a few units only. So we see it on the front end and on the back end, of course, in the side of e-commerce itself and bringing the demand. There are many other aspects of AI that assist here that our customers are leveraging.
Yes. Phil, if you had a prediction for the future of the apparel industry, what do you think we're going to see over the next, make it really short, the next 6 or 12 months? Where do you see the biggest opportunities?
Wow, that's a big question. We are continually working on new technologies. We're just launching the Mona Lisa 16,000 JQ for printing onto jacquard material, for instance. So everything we're doing at Epson is to give our customers, give the industry more choice, enable more complex images, more complex fabrics to be printed digitally so that we can address the problems we talked about at the front end of this discussion, the impact of the textile industry on carbon emissions and waste. So yeah, that's what we're aiming for. Huge amount of work being done on a daily basis in Japan on R&D. So that's really what we see over the next 6 months. But yeah, more changes and more challenges coming our way, definitely.
Oliver, you're powering this creator economy meter by meter right at the very beginning here.
Yeah,
how do you see Printfab evolving over the next few years? What do your customers need?
I think there are two things that we're kind of working towards at the moment. I think at the moment it's still all relatively new. I think this stuff, digital print technology, the sort of print on demand and fulfillment and manufacture on demand. But there's some bits that are really lacking, sort of in between those sort of bits. So, for example, defining a garment in an electronic format, but there is no sort of standard sort of data format for that. So I think that the next big thing, I hope, will be the sort of definition of or a data format that can be used to describe manufactured products that can be used and sent from e-commerce platforms to production lines to people. So there's a common format. That common format's lacking at the moment, which makes it really difficult to make all these things talk to each other. So it'd be great to see that.
It would. What do you have anything to add on that? Is PDF a solution? Is PDF going to become more important? What do you think that file is going to be that can embed all of that data?
So I totally agree with Oliver on that front. So there are standards for the fashion brands, for the design of the pattern itself, like AAMA, to define the geometry of the garment. But from there, to go to design, to color calibration, to all that part, is the bridging between the CAD side of things to the design side of things is definitely missing. We had to build that ourselves to serve our customers because, again, the source of the information may be Adobe Illustrator that has all the tools in it to define what is needed in terms of color profiles and so on and so forth, all the way to the browser where the guy loads his own image and you need to figure out how do you deliver it all the way. PDF is definitely a huge help and a good standard. To piggyback on the notion of standards that Oliver mentioned, I think this is the key for the fashion industry, not just streetwear or sportswear, but for the true fashion industry to get into the on-demand manufacturing. Because for a big brand like H&M, Zara, and those known names, to work with a microfactory, a single microfactory is a risk. And if they want to distribute their manufacturing and work on demand at a local level, right? So I can order additional 100 units to my location in Poland, and in the UK, I'm ordering from somebody else. There must be standards. Today, the same, we have customers that had challenges in 2 different locations to produce the same quality, the same exact colors, because different inks, different temperature, all the reasons why it doesn't get the exact same. So I think this is the standards and the maturity of the microfactories, as well as the integration of the overall workflow, is key to expand this on demand into the traditional fashion industry.
It's the only way, isn't it, to reduce waste and also to make companies viable at any scale. They have to have that production agility built in, don't they? Really, and the customers' expectations get ever faster and ever bigger, don't they?
Hopefully robotics will be a big thing that's going to come up in the future, hopefully, because we used to have a cut and sew department here, but it was very difficult for us to run. But if there's a robot solution that can actually take a piece of fabric and make it into something, we've seen a few things that can do it, but it's just so complicated it doesn't really work. That'd be great to see. We're looking at robots now to do certain things.
To move things around the factory.
To sort things, and but the scope where we can potentially deploy them is fairly limited. So maybe, but we'll see. It'd be nice to have a few robots. I've got a robot on my desk, actually. But yeah.
We all have to start somewhere, don't we?
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, we could carry on for a lot longer. There is so many depths to each of these topics. Thank you. Is there anything anybody would like to add before we finish?
It's been really interesting to hear all the different sort of parts of, particularly the software side of things that you're doing, Guy. I mean, I know Phil already very well.
It's really interesting to
the software. Yeah.
You have a much bigger conversation. That's great. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I know you're all super busy, and I look forward to carrying the conversation on. For the listeners, I'll make sure that contact details for everybody are in the show notes. Until next time, speak soon, everybody.
Thanks, Debbie. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Debbie.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.